Let's talk about navigating the winter. This is going to be part one of a series. I wrote some notes, so I'm going to be looking to the side a little bit just so I can stay on top of things. So, we're going to start off with the most hardest part of the winter time, which is the finances. We're going to talk through it. It's not the um, expert advice. I'm not a financial analyst. I'm not even a finance expert. As a matter of fact, I make a lot of mistakes with finances, but we're going to talk through some of the challenges that ends up happening during the wintertime and what we can do to overcome it. So, kicking off with finance, why is it so difficult? The holidays. The holidays makes finances extremely difficult for people to keep up with bills, rent, Christmas, birthdays, all of that jammed into one. Even for myself, I was struggling. I went 6 weeks without pay and ongoing, potentially 7 weeks without pay, which is extremely difficult to do, especially where you're not working full time, which is another issue that a lot of people run into. Those of us that are not working full time, when we do not work, we do not get paid. And that is a huge, huge, huge challenge to deal with. So, what do we do? So, some of us get secondary jobs. So, for me, I have multiple jobs and side gigs. So I work as a policy fellow first and foremost, and then I work as a program manager where I offer digital literacy classes throughout Chicago. I did that for the past 4 years. I did the policy job for the past year. Um, and what I do is I pitch my work to organizations and they pay me. And you don't have to have an LLC to pitch a program or pitch your services. You could be a sole proprietor and be able to work for someone else without being full time or an employee of that organization. So finding contractor jobs, gig work, uh, offering your services. These are things that you can do to make extra income during the wintertime. Also, gig work. A lot of people underestimate gig work. I have done gig work even while working as a consultant. I was doing Uber Eats deliveries when I had a car. No longer have a car, so I can't do Uber Eats deliveries, but I have seen people do it on bikes. So just because you don't have a car doesn't mean you can't do Uber Eats deliveries and that type of stuff because I've seen people do it on bikes. But then also outside of the Uber Eats, DoorDash, Instacart, Shift or Shipped, um, and what else am I missing? I feel like I'm missing one of the big delivery gig companies. Grubhub. There we go. So even outside of those, you can still do gig work, but you have to think less formal. You have to think, okay, what can I do for my neighbors type of work, whether that is um, taking out people's garbage, shoveling people's snow. And it sounds like teenager jobs, I know, but like we're at the point where it don't even matter no more. It don't even matter anymore because we just got to make it work. For me, I even started doing hair again, even though I joked around on my Facebook, like I'm not taking clients, but I kind of looked around and I was like, I might need to start taking clients. Something else that I do on the side. I used to run a web design business and I found out really quickly that design was not really an issue when it came to getting and obtaining clients. It was the tech support that really became a thing when it came to my clients. So I had to push my tech support skills more than anything else so I can get at least a customer or two per quarter just to have something coming in. And then we talked a little bit about gig work, but I'm gonna go back to it. Anything that can give you cash in hand, we need to brainstorm and think through what skill sets do you have, what resources do you have, even if that's like my daughter came to me the other day because she needed a pair of pants sewed, and I have needle and thread. Even that can be something that you could be offering people. Like we really have to think old school group economics type of stuff. Um, and I'm even using the term group economics, but that kind of helps me slide into the next topic, which is if all else fails, we need to be thinking about group economics. Thinking about, okay, what do you need money for? And instead of you working for money, you might need to collaborate with people to figure out, okay, how do I get food in the house? How do I get laundry done? How do I get dog food? How do I make it to work? So just thinking through that, I had to lean a lot on my community. I had to lean a lot on my community to get through the winter, just as recent as this weekend. Like, I had to lean on my community a lot. I'm talking for funds, I'm talking for food, I'm talking even clothes, I'm talking bus passes, all of those things. I had to lean on community to receive so I could just make it through. And then also thinking of bartering. So, like, offering, again, going back to the skill sets and the resources that you have, how can we barter for whatever it is that you need to make it through? So, again, these aren't the end all be all of things that we can do for finances, but it will help you get by. I think something that comes up when it comes to finances and struggling with finances is dealing with the shame. And I think that's the part, like, if you're at a part where you're like, I don't want to feel like a charity case, I don't feel like begging anybody for stuff. Um, I should have been had my stuff in order. Why can't I get my things in order? Like, I you really want to address the underlying feeling that you are having when it comes to that thought process, because it can hold you back. If you are seeing it as begging, then you're going to come across it as begging. And you have to really think through, is this begging, or do I need to get through this challenge? Is this um, me not getting my stuff together, or is this the result of us dealing with an economic shift that's happening to our communities, that's happening to this country, that's happening with the job market? Like, you really have to think about what's the narrative that you're telling yourself when we're facing these challenges, because trust, everything that I just spilled out, I had those thoughts too, especially when it came to income. Like, at the end of the day, I am working 2 to 3 different jobs. And I thought that I was failing for a really long time because I just could not keep up with the bills. But then I realized, because of my circumstances, I ended up in a situation where I was living above my means. Like, when I went into the place, I was good. I had a good paying job. It was a full-time job. I had benefits and everything. And then life lifed. And then next thing you know, I'm struggling to just do rent. I'm like, if I can get through the month and just pay rent, then I'm good. And then after a while, even that was it ideal. It was just like, okay, what's the backup plan? Because I know I'm not going to be here for much longer. So, circling back and kind of recapping everything, when it comes to finances, first, check your ego. Check your emotions, check your ego, because um you got to come up with a game plan. Like, we have to address the feelings, but at the same time, we got to come up with a game plan. So the feelings that come up when it comes to money, because a lot of us have either positive thoughts and feels around money, or really negative thoughts and feelings around money. And you got to figure out where you are at with it and check it, like, right then and there, so that we can move on to the plan. Because you're not going to be open, or as open, to the many different options you may have access to, because you're already just like, oh, I shouldn't be in this position to begin with. So there's that. And then thinking about the second job, the third job, potentially even a fourth job. For me, it's the policy, the program management. I do tech support every once in a while. I do hair every once in a while. I started writing now, including this Substack, to test out and figure out a different stream of income. And then my content. So my content is monetized depending on the platform. And I spent some weeks studying what content works, what content doesn't work. Um, how often do I need to be posting things? I spent some time studying, so that way, no matter what I'm doing, I'm contributing to some source of income coming from somewhere, even if it's a little bit. It's a little bit that helps. Um, Also thinking through other jobs outside of a traditional job, things outside of a common 9 to 5. So thinking about contractor work, thinking about gig work, thinking about under the table work, cash in hand type of work. Um, we got to be realistic about what we can do and what we have access to, and be really creative with how you can bring money through the door. And then also thinking, how can we work together as a community? How can we work together as a group? What does your community look like? If you can go to someone for food, if you can go to someone for a roof over your head, if you can go to someone for transportation, if you can go to someone for laundry, for clothes, like you're in an ideal spot if you can immediately think of someone for each of those things, um, because you can utilize that to also save money. So that's something to also think through, and then barter. So those are my thoughts around finances and navigating the winter. If you have thoughts, comments, ideas, feel free to comment, whether this is on my Facebook or this is on Substack or this is somewhere else. Feel free to comment and share, because the more information we could get, the better it is for other people who might not be as brave to talk about these issues and these challenges that they're facing this winter. So, stick around for part two. We're going to talk through necessities. We're going to talk through mental health. We're going to and talk through activities and other things that comes up during the winter time. So make sure you subscribe.